Please welcome Jason McNeill to the show.
Hello. How you doing, Jason?
I'm good. How's everything?
Love it.
Awesome. Jason, you're doing amazing work. Can you just tell everyone a little bit about the premise of Cup of Joe?
All right. Well, essentially, it's a show for news, views, and things that amuse. The reason for it, essentially, is that I kind of find when I'm looking at the media, I'm a bit of a media junkie. I find the letters to the editor to be the most interesting part of the news recently. And I also find that the narratives that we see in the news regarding politics or entertainment or whatever, it seems to be kind of silos. I don't know if that makes sense. Like we're all kind of supposed to fit into this group or that group, and I think most people don't really. Right? Like, for example, I'll give you an example. I'm a driver. And in the media in Toronto, they like to pit the drivers against the cyclists or the pedestrians, but I've ridden a bicycle and I'm a pedestrian as well. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's a driver alive that is not more agitated by other drivers than anything else. But that's not the narrative that we hear, right? It's drivers hate cyclists, cyclists hate drivers. It's not true, but we're sort of sold these options, pick one. And I don't think that's the case. So what I want to do is get average people to come on the show. And, I have a lot of strange ideas and weird views, and I think most people do. And I'd like to get those out there and give people a sort of soapbox.
Yeah. That's a good point, though. Well,
thank you.
That's a good point that you made about the cyclists in general, because it's true. People are really blowing the horns at each other. You might get the occasional, hey, watch out or something like that. But you're right, though. You make a good point, and a lot of people don't understand that. They mostly blame it on the cyclists.
So I mean, like as a driver, sure, I have been agitated by a cyclist before, but it's far less frequent than other drivers cutting me off or, not signaling or whatever the other drivers are doing to agitate me in my commute.
Yep.
It's more frequent, but it's not really as focused.
Yep.
Right.
You know what? And I'm sorry. I apologize, guys. I've got to cut in. This is another reason why I know this show, The Cup of Joe, has got to be great. Because it just made me think about something I have never asked this question before.
And that's essentially the goal, right? Is to get people thinking outside of the box, outside of what's normally presented to you as your options. There's a million opinions on anything. You know what I mean?
Right. Now, go ahead.
Sorry, go on.
Go ahead. And then I'll ask. Go ahead. Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say, even when I was younger, it was like I kind of like playing devil's advocate, right? Like taking the side of an argument that I don't even necessarily agree with, because there is logic on any side of the argument, right? Like the people that feel differently than me, they're not stupid. They think differently, right? Mm-hmm. I find a lot of times it's like I have an opinion, and I sort of, well, not me personally, but it's presented as though it's just factual, and anyone that doesn't agree with this is not correct. That's not the case. There's a lot of middle ground, right? We generally get exposed to the extremes, though. The people on the extreme side of any argument have the loudest voice. There's a lot of room in between, right?
Right. I want to ask this question, and then Nikki, go ahead. I'm sorry to cut you off, but do cyclists ever cut cyclists off? Nobody ever asked.
Good question, man. I'll be honest. Anytime I've seen a bunch of them, they tend to be working in unison.
Okay.
It's a cohesive unit. So I would say they probably don't, but I don't know. That's an interesting question.
I had to ask. Okay, go ahead.
You see what
I know for sure. I know for sure I've seen pedestrians curse at cyclists. Right? So they have a lot of the vehicle that can be a threat or a danger if they're going, they don't stop at the stop sign or whatever. And I've seen that altercation take place. But I've never really seen two cyclists really
well, I'm a pedestrian, and I've had a pedestrian cut me off. So they've knocked me over. Anything goes sometimes, and no story, nothing.
Black Friday.
Black Friday. I'm staying home Black Friday. I'm talking about regular commutes just across the street. You can just get, it's like a wild west. But anyway,
it's interesting that you say that though, because I've always thought with a car, the reason people do that is because there's like a buffer zone, right? But if it's just I'm a pedestrian, that's me physically, my body getting in your space, right? Like that feels a little more
personal boundary issues. Yeah.
100%. Conversely, I think that's why I get so agitated when someone cuts me off in a car, because I feel like this car is an extension of me, right? You have cut into my space. And there's also the idea that it could be dangerous, and you could think of it like that person has just put me at risk. There's a lot of things that factor in, right?
A lot of things to factor in. But the beauty of this show here to anyone who's particularly famous. Like, you just take anyone who has an opinion, and over a cup of coffee, you talk. And
as long as you can make an argument. As long as you can
make an argument, right.
And I'll tell you something. The reason for this is, okay, I don't know if you guys have heard recently, but Kim Kardashian dyed her hair.
Yeah.
I don't know why that's news. I don't know why every Toronto newspaper had an article on it. But apparently this is what people are interested in, right? It's not even that she dyed it a strange, she went blonde. How many people dye their hair blonde in America at the same time? You know what I mean? But that's news? I don't know. I don't think Kim Kardashian, because she, takes a picture of her butt, her opinion is more valid than my mechanic or anyone who lives in my neighborhood, right? These people have opinions. They're regular, average people. I don't see why certain celebrities' opinions are more important,
Me neither.
I don't feel that way.
Yeah.
In fact, I feel the opposite.
Yeah. No, you're right, though.
Sorry to interrupt you. So what kind of shows, what other topics are going to be, coming up in your next line of shows, or is it close to whatever is current?
Well, I try to go with what's current, right? Like what's going to be in the news. I mean, if I was doing one right now, I'd probably be looking at this the German plane that went down. I think that's getting a lot of coverage. I'm curious how people feel about it. In Canada, we have an ongoing debate. It's at the Supreme Court level regarding the niqab and taking a citizenship oath while wearing a niqab or a burqa. And some people are like, you shouldn't be allowed to. Some people are like, it's religious. You should be allowed to. I think that's a very interesting issue to discuss in terms of, going forward, what do we want for our country, for our society, right? Do we think that, I mean, with the burqa, it's a little different, right? Because you have people that would honestly say, okay, wearing it is my religious freedom. But then on the other side, you can say, okay, but wearing it is oppression by religion, right? Like, it's I don't know, it's a lot of gray area there. So I think that's one that I would enjoy talking about. I don't know, what do you guys have going on down there?
Oh, well, you mean in the U.S. here? I tell you, you know what? I have to be honest. I have not been watching the news that much, to be quite honest with you.
Tell me this one.
Yeah.
How come Ted Cruz, who was born in Canada, can run for president?
Really?
Well, that's what I hear, right? Apparently, this is what I found odd. Ted Cruz was born in Canada but renounced his Canadian citizenship.
Okay.
Now, my understanding is because his mother was a naturalized American when he was born, he can run. But I didn't hear any of that when Barack Obama, when they were like, oh, where's the birth certificate? Right? So realistically, if Barack Obama's mom was American and he was born in Kenya, they wouldn't have a problem. It seems like this is a new rule, right? Don't get me wrong, I'm glad that someone from Canada is, making a run for it, but
I need to look.
Like I don't understand it.
And you know what? I need to look that up, as a matter of fact, because I had not heard about that, and that is true. I can't imagine why that would be the case. Now, there's only one reason I could see a possibility, even remotely, of that, is if he renounced. Because from my understanding, is that once a person renounces their original citizenship and picks up another citizenship, I think it might cancel that out. That might be how they're doing it.
So, for example, if Schwarzenegger was to renounce his birth citizenship, he could run for president?
He could, if he could say, yeah, no more Austria for me.
He was governor, so I'm assuming.
That's very interesting to me. Yeah. And my next thought was, maybe they're just floating it out, right? Like, maybe he's not going to win the nomination, but they want to see how agitated people would be that the fact that he wasn't born in America.
Well,
if it goes well, then maybe they have other people in the back. So they're like, well, this is the person who wants to be president, right?
Well, here's the money.
I don't know, but it seems like there's a long game involved here, right?
Yeah. Here's the money question.
You know what we were talking about, Jason, just before in Hot Topics? Did you hear about Miss Japan and the whole thing that's going on now with some people in Japan saying that because she's biracial, that is she Japanese looking enough to represent Japan? What do you think about that?
Well, that, I don't know. I guess we've had a lot of that. Like, if you take, for example, like Tiger Woods, right? He's a black golfer, but then the people that don't want to see a black golfer, they're like, well, he's only 25% black, right? At the end of the day, you are what you identify as, I think. So, yeah, I don't think it matters how you look, right? But again, we come from a very multicultural city where, I can't say what a Torontonian looks like. They look like, a spectrum of things. So, I don't know, maybe what I picture to be a Japanese person might be a certain way. She may not fit that bill, but who am I to say, right?
Yeah.
She's from there, so that's what she is.
Yeah, she's a Japanese citizen, so she's.
That's what I would think.
I love that about Canada.
I would hate to be representing Canada in any event and be told that I don't look like I represent Canada. It would be very offensive to me.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. That's one of the multicultural things I really like about Canada, as a matter of fact. And you know, that I have to say there's a difference in the USA and Canada when it comes to that. You know, when, you know, my time in Canada is true. People could be honored and respected according to their heritage. And I think more so because people knew what they were. People weren't just thrown into a box between, you know, one or two or three, you know, like Neapolitan ice cream, you know, if you will, you know. And so that's one of the things I definitely like about, you know, just the multiculturalness in Canada.
Yeah. I do think that it's, you know, it is a place where you can be Indian Canadian or Italian Canadian or whatever, and you don't have to sort of give up any of that. You know what I mean? I don't feel like with America, and again, there's something good to be said about it as well, that you identify first as American. Right? Sometimes I wish that people would identify as Canadian first. Our Canadian soccer team, right, is very competitive. How can that be? When all of the people that live here come from countries that have very competitive soccer teams, they love soccer, you know, but an Italian Canadian would rather play for Italy if he's a citizen of Italy because that the team is going somewhere, right? Yeah. I want them to be more Canadian than Italian, but at the same time, I appreciate very much that we have that Italian culture, Greek culture, Indian culture that I can, you know, if it's just up the road, I can just go get samosas or get, you know, doubles or whatever. We have everything here. So.
Everything. Well, it's the Cup of Joe show, Jason, where can people find it if they want to see some of the episodes?
They can catch it on the Nikki Clarke Network.
Hey.
They also have a website, cupofjoecanada.com. And they can hit me up on the Twitter at cupofjoecanada, right?
Yeah, because you're looking for ideas, too. You're looking for opinions.
100%. Anything that people want to hear opinions on, like, I have ideas that I just want to hear people talk. Like, for example, the niqab. I want to know what people's opinions are on the niqab. If people have ideas that they want to know what opinions are or they want to hear people talk about it, I'm happy to take on those subjects, like I say. And if they have their own opinion, I have found the people I find that have the controversial opinions don't want to come on camera yet. See? But we're going to make those controversial opinions the mainstream. You understand? Because you know when they say everyone thinks it and no one says it?
Exactly.
Then everyone should be saying it, right? So let's get to that.
Yeah.
Right? We're like, we say what we think instead of holding back and forth.
Exactly. Yeah. Taking off the filters, like you said. Okay, well, Jason, it's been a pleasure having you on the show, and you know, I really appreciate what you do and just getting the conversation out there, getting people to really talk about things beyond superficiality and the heart of matters. So, thank you for that. And again, where can people find you? CoupleJoeCanada.com or on the Nikki Clarke Network. Okay, awesome.
Absolutely.
All right. You can also go to YouTube and just type in Couple Joe Canada. You'll get to the YouTube page. Subscribe. That's how you monitor for progress, right?
Okay. And do you have an email address if people can email you directly with your questions or ideas?
Yeah, it will be averagejoe@couplejoecanada.com.
Okay. Perfect.
That's for people that want to discuss topics and get on the show and, you know, kick it around a little bit.
Love it.
That sounds amazing. Everybody out there, of course, you're listening to Throwback Thursdays with myself, Keith Harris, and the wonderful Nikki Clarke. And we have had the honor of talking to Jason McNeill on the show today about the wonderful show Cup of Joe. And listen, I think this is really interesting. It pushes a lot of issues. As Jason said, it'll bring a lot of people out of their shells. And a lot of issues that need to be talked about. Look, just the topics that came up today could go on forever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, really.
So that's exactly it, right?
Yeah. So that's a big deal. Make sure. Listen, everybody, make sure you tap into it. Don't be afraid to come on the show. Listen, kudos to you, Jason McNeill, for doing what you do. Keep it going, everybody. Look, I love the name of that show too, Cup of Joe. Listen, you sit down and you talk. I'd just
like to send a quick shout, if I could.
Yeah.
To the people of North Carolina. I tell you, I've been there only once in my life. I went down to Raleigh. I watched the Leafs playoff game. We drove down. Leafs won 1-0. I have never met so many nice people in my life.
Hey, you know what? Hey, look, we're gonna talk about that Cup of Joe time too, because we'll find a controversial issue. Look, big shout outs to Raleigh. I won't go into that right now. Big shout outs to Raleigh and the whole North Carolina.
I'm just saying, Southern hospitality was something else, man.
Absolutely.
They were real good.
Absolutely. All right. Listen, also, everybody, in case you tuned in late or you missed some of the conversation, don't forget you can go back and check this whole conversation out on social media. It'll be posted up in just a little while as well. Listen, it's been wonderful. And look, Jason, you want to announce the song to take us out to Nas?
Yeah. You're listening to Nas off the Illmatic album, produced by Q-Tip. This is One Love.
That's right.
All right.
He know his stuff. Throwback Thursdays.
Keep it locked.
All right.